not a great deal I can say, really. It's extremely humiliating night for us all, everyone connected to the club, and to concede 5 goals in any game is unacceptable. And I think that result there tonight pretty much sums up our away record.
Those were the words of manager Jim Goodwin in the aftermath of last night's embarrassing and horrific display at Tynecastle. And the match stats don't make for good reading. The Dons now have the joint worst defence in the Scottish Premiership. Aberdeen have now lost 5 straight away league games for the first time since 2010. Aberdeen have only won 2 games from their last 10 in all competitions. And the Dons have now conceded 27 goals in 11 away league games, 37 in total. Do I need to remind you? Full time at Tynecastle, Hearts 5, Aberdeen 0. It means this at the top of the table. So we remain 5th. It's as simple as that. But the gap to Hearts is now 9 points. And to the rest, it just gets bigger and bigger. And we are now edging ever closer to the bottom 6. Good evening, everybody. How are you? Welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Thursday night. So I've decided to come on tonight to do a review show. Thought long and hard about whether I wanted to do it or not after witnessing that last night. And again, it's the same old story. It is simply Jekyll and Hyde. And when we appear to take 10 steps forward, the very next week, we take 20 steps back. And it's been the story of our season so far. Last night was simply baffling. It was just appalling again. And what I've decided to do tonight is simply open the floor to you, the fans, to get in touch on YouTube. And what I'll do tonight is just read your comments out. So there's no interviews, there's no features. I've closed that all down tonight so that you can have your say. So I'd be very grateful if you would be respectful when you come on YouTube. It's important to the channel as a whole that we remain respectful. I know that some of you are still very angry. Some of you have a lot of frustrations. So if you don't mind, please try not to use bad language tonight on the messages. And we'll just go through them. That's what I thought we'll do tonight. We'll do something completely different and we'll just simply go through everything. But before we get to that, there are a couple of bits and pieces that we need to get through. Twitter last night lit up. And it was damning. It was absolutely damning. And I've put together just a couple of newspaper headlines which just show the mood. Humiliating, pathetic, embarrassing and unacceptable is what Jim Goodwin said. That was his assessment of our 5-0 loss last night. The Scotsman reporting Jim Goodwin refuses to chuck towel in after Aberdeen's horrendous night at Hearts. Let's bring you up to speed with a couple of things that are going on. So Christian Ramirez today has left Aberdeen and he has now signed for Columbus Crew in the MLS. And I think it's safe to say that we all wish him nothing but the very best over in America. Also today, just let me get it up for you. There's been a lot of talk about this guy, Bojan Majowski. And according to the Press and Journal, Italian giants Lazio are reportedly interested in Bojan Majowski, and they've had scouts and a director of football looking at him, and the reports are that potentially they could make a bid before the window closes. Make of that what you will. It is just newspaper talk. Don't take it overly for gospel. So that's us right up to speed with what everything has gone on today. Okay, let me offer you some thoughts. So first of all, on the recruitment side of things, so it's so obvious, it is so glaringly obvious that when players left the club at the beginning of the season, that they needed replacing. And yes, we brought in Anthony Stewart. Yes, we brought in Jayden Richardson, but we desperately needed more cover. And where I just can't quite get my head around the whole recruitment side of things is that we have not recruited in the areas that we desperately need it. And there's been a knock-on effect to that, which is, again, glaringly obvious for everybody to see. Asking players to play out of position, and the perfect example of that was last night. So we had Ross playing at centre-back, and then we had Matty Kennedy playing at right-back. And on that note, I'm slightly struggling with here is we've got a natural right-back on the bench in Jayden Richardson. But Jim decides to go with Matty Kennedy. Now, for whatever reason, but in my humble opinion, that suggests to me that Jim maybe doesn't trust Jayden Richardson. So for me, that's an issue. I also don't get why Vinny didn't start last night, an impact player. I get Johnny coming in for the experience and all that. I get that. But I think Vinny would have been better suited. So whatever issues that are there, and there are clearly issues there, it has to be sorted. And it can only be sorted by the two parties coming together, sitting down and having a chat, a face-to-face, man-to-man chat, and getting the issues sorted out. Now, we don't know what's happened there. We have absolutely no idea. So all we can do is speculate. But to me, if he isn't working hard enough in training, if he's been unprofessional in any way, if Jim thinks there's an issue there, then he is the manager and he has to address it. And Vinny, as a professional, has got to take on the constructive criticism, knuckle down and get on with the work. But I don't understand why it keeps rolling on and rolling on and rolling on. So, again, this is just my humble opinion, and I'm not trying to speak out of turn because you all know my thoughts for this football club and the huge role and the huge part of my life that it is and has been for over 40 years. But at the moment, I believe we, as a football club, we are sleepwalking. And it has to be fixed. And it has to be fixed quickly. Okay, rant over. I certainly don't mean to offend, and I hope none of you are offended. Just had to get that off my chest. Okay, let's have a look. Good Lord. There are over 100 of you on tonight. Amazing. Thank you for coming on. Fraser Gunn has said, good evening. Hi, Fraser, how are you doing? David is there. Good evening. Okay, so bear with me while I go through these, and let's just react as we see fit going through this. So if you're just joining us, if you're just tuning in, I've just opened the floor to the fans tonight to have their say on YouTube. So there's no features, there's no interviews, nothing. It's just quite simply you guys talking tonight. Okay, so Paul Donaldson has said, good evening. Hope everyone is okay after seeing that shameful and embarrassing performance last night. Everyone has known since the start of the season that there are major problems in our defence. The January transfer window should be the opportunity to try and fix that. He goes on to say, it will be unforgivable if the club fail to sign any new defenders in this window. The sticking plaster approach of moving midfielders back into defence really showed us up last night again. I completely agree. Jamie Bannerman. Hi, Jamie. Good evening to you. Malcolm Park. Hi, Malcolm. Everyone else still raging. Even by just looking on, I just quickly flicked through Twitter before we came on tonight, and folk are still raging. Fraser Gunn said, I went into last night with hope and a feeling of encouragement after Sunday. Last night was shocking. We are so weak at the back. We look so easy to cut open. Shall I tell you what I think was really damning last night? Was that Hearts fans were tweeting that they weren't even playing that well and they were 4-0 up at half-time. Now, if that is not a damning statement, I don't know what is. Alexander Wallace is on. He said, good evening to everybody. Scott W has said, I've been a supporter of Jim since he came in, but the run of results since the World Cup are unforgivable. Dave Cormack and co simply have to get rid of him, sadly. Kaiser has said, it's the end of the road for Jim Goodwin. I've seen, after last night, he's no idea how to set up a team. Paul Simmons has said, very angry about last night still, and he thinks that Jim's time is also up. Malcolm Park goes on to say, it could be the end of the road for Jim. He looked like a completely beaten man, no clue what to do to turn this around. So for me, I think he probably has to go. Alexander Wallace has said, and this is interesting, surely we have some young defenders in the pipeline. If you are good enough, you're old enough. Now, I have to understand, what I don't understand is why we put the young lad, Jack Milne, out on loan. So Jim came out and said that the lad wanted game time, which is absolutely fine. And of course, we totally understand that. But if you have no cover, why'd you let him go out? That's what I can't quite get my head around, knowing that there's no cover in that actual position. That's where I'm struggling to understand why he went out on loan. I get the game time. I get that he wants to play. I get the experience, the much needed experience, playing at that level. But we needed cover. Okay. John Robertson has said, shambolic and embarrassing. No Aberdeen team should be losing 5-0 to anyone, let alone Hearts. Jim has 2 games from his P45. I'd give him the Scottish Cup game and 1 more league match. Fraser Gunn has gone on to said, I thought JG looked and sounded so deflated after the game, looked like a beaten man. As much as he definitely needs his share of the blame, I believe others are equally at fault. Stuart McCallum has said, we can't keep changing the boss. We can play well, clear issues in defence. We need another striker option. It makes no sense. How can we be so bad anyway? You see, again, a lot of you have come on recently and said, how can I put it? That some of you have said that we cannot go back to what was the sort of the late 90s, where after Roy Aitken got sacked, managers came and went, and it was so bad for the football club, and we were really in a bad place at that time until Ebb came in, and then there was a bit more stability there. But up until that point, it was just chop and change. And we certainly do not want to go back to that. So chopping and changing managers is not healthy. So I can totally understand why so many of you are saying steady. Kevin Turner, in complete contradiction, said, time for a change of manager as it's clearly not working. Tactics questionable and failure to sort defence out when aware of the realities last season. The board must aim higher than mediocrity. Yes, we have to. David Lamb, it's his team. He signed the majority of the players, which I think, to be fair to Jim, he has come out and acknowledged. And he has said, again, to be fair to him, this is on me. Lee Doubles has come on. Hi, Lee, how are you? Jim is clearly out of his depth. He's made some decent signings, but also a few poor ones. I had massive belief last night after Sunday. Didn't see us capitulating like we did. Scott W has come on to say, I have to say, though, that the players didn't give up and kept going to the very end, so credit where it's due. Paul Simmers, I hope I've pronounced that correct, Paul. He thinks that Jim has lost the dressing room. David Scott has said, we seriously need a good, experienced centre-half. Completely agree, mate. Kaiser said, Matty Kennedy at right back. Why? Why, oh why? Stuart McCallum has gone on to say, it's obvious how key Lewis Ferguson was in our team, left a huge hole in midfield. John Bleasdale has come on and said, hi John, how are you? It's not just Jim who should carry the can. The recruitment process has been abysmal. Overloading with midfielders and wingers and leaving us drastically at centre-back is gross negligence. Jim has come out today and said that, the recruitment, he was satisfied with the recruitment, but when we, us, mere mortals, can see what the issues are, yet at the football club it doesn't get addressed, that's for me where there is an argument, there's a huge argument to say, well, no, the recruitment hasn't been what we've needed, because right now we are struggling. And I said it before at the top of the show, and I'll say it again, it is glaringly obvious what needs to be done. David Scott has come on and said about Vinny should be playing more. Again, more people coming on about the recruitment team needing to give themselves a shake. So, again, what's quite interesting is a few of you have come on and talked that it's not just Jim's fault. Of course it's not just Jim's fault. It's a collective. And we shouldn't just point fingers at the manager, because players have to take responsibility as well. And he was right about the opening goal. The opening goal was Keystone Cops, if you can remember them. I don't think a Hearts player even touched the ball before it found its way into the back of the net. And the fact that we had two players challenging for the ball, and then it just breaks, and it's unfortunate it came off Graham, and then it ended up in the back of the net. But the fact that the long ball was spoken about, the long throw-in was spoken about, and nobody took responsibility, you can't point the finger at the manager for that. So all I'm doing here is playing devil's advocate, trying to find the balance. Bojan last night, again, very little service. I don't think he did enough off the ball. I've been saying this for a few weeks now, that particularly away from home, I don't think there's enough movement there. I don't think he gives us enough options when midfielders are getting the ball, getting the heads up. It's very direct with Bojan, which I get, and don't get me wrong, we're reaping the rewards of it at Pittodrie. But away from home, I think there needs, as we all know, it's a completely different game away from Pittodrie. And I think maybe he's still adjusting. I don't know. I'm not making excuses. I genuinely don't know. I'm just to say, I'm absolutely astonished how many of you are on tonight. Over 150 of you are on tonight, which has blown all the viewing figures out of the window since we started back in April last year. So thank you so much for coming on and watching tonight. And tonight is all about you guys, the fans. Normally, I would have interviews with prominent Aberdeen fans and journalists and features about the club, but not tonight, because I just felt it was right that I gave you guys the floor to come on and just talk. Scott W actually makes a very interesting point about players. If they don't want to sign for us, and if there are none available, what can we do? But I'm always of the opinion that there has to be a plan B. So this is what I was saying about when Jim was talking about trying to sign the centre-half or the defender at the beginning of the January transfer window, and it fell through. So did we put all our eggs in one basket for that one player? Because to me, I think there should always be a backup plan, always, just in case the player, terms are not agreed, the player doesn't want to come. There are so many reasons why a player might not want to come, so there has to be a plan B. And at the moment, what I would say is I can't see a plan B, and that's worrying. Denise, I think it's Denise 1394, has said, for me, I feel the players are not playing for him. He's lost the dressing room. John Gallen has come on and said that he's absolutely speechless about last night. Stuart Irvin has said in the Times today, quote, after half an hour, Hearts got bored with Aberdeen. That's a very good quote and a damning quote. Paul Donaldson has gone on to say, I don't know what the whole thing with Vinny is. Is it just that he isn't just one of Jim Goodwin's signings? There seems to be issues with other players. He's not signed himself. His own signings usually start. Alan Suter has said he's really concerned about Darvel on Monday, potential to be the worst ever result. Paul Simmers has gone on to say, I'm so shocked because Hearts didn't even look that good. They didn't. And that was one of the biggest issues for me last night, as it is for so many of you. And Hearts fans coming out and saying we're not even playing that well and we're absolutely dicking them 4-0 at half-time. Okay, just bear with me while I just go through this. Lorraine Baxter has said some shocking decisions at the club at the moment. Scott Farquhar has come on to say, looking at defence, has he lost trust in Richardson and decides to play Kennedy at right back? It's what I mentioned at the top of the show, Scott. I think there could be an issue there, yes. Kaiser came back to say 11 months of Jim, and I think we've seen all there is to see. You see, Jim, so he gave his press conference tonight. Oh, well, it was at 4 o'clock this afternoon for the Darvel game. And again, I'm just going to stick my oar in here. I'm a little bit baffled to why he gave the press conference today. Now, we're 4 days away from the game. Could have easily have done it tomorrow, let the dust settle from last night. Could have done it on Saturday after training, because no doubt they'll train on Saturday. You know, journalism is a 24 hours around-the-clock job. It's all done over Zoom. So I don't see why he gave the press conference today. I still think it was a little bit raw. Difficult questions were asked. And yeah, it was a bit of an odd one for me, I've got to be honest. But he said that progress has been made, and he spoke about progress behind the scenes, which doesn't get the publicity and doesn't see the cold light of day, which again, I understand. But us as fans, all we want is the progress on the pitch. And that's all that matters to us, the fans, I think. You know, the club initiatives and what the football club have done post-pandemic is to be applauded. The initiatives with the community and the young fans has been absolutely fantastic. And I applaud it. And I have absolutely no issues with that whatsoever. In fact, I welcome it. But the football department need to get themselves sorted out because it's a mess. And I, personally, and you may or may not agree, I haven't seen any progress. None. And I may be speaking out of turn, but that's genuinely what I think. I haven't seen any progress. David Scott, again, a few of you have come on and quoted what Jim said after I think it was the Motherwell game, when he said defence would be easy to fix. It's coming back to haunt him. It so is. Jason Campbell, the real rot started when our vice captain was in amongst... Okay. I don't want to get into that, Jason, if you don't mind. Safety Blitz 73 has said, JG has made too much noise about playing entertaining football, but I'm fine with parking the bus if it means we start picking up points. Yeah. John Gallen has said, it's so frustrating when you see the players playing out of position. How much are we losing from Ross in midfield? He's a class midfielder. Scott Farquhar said, we took a gamble by letting Bates, Gallagher, Considine go, starting to think that it was the wrong decision. Kaiser went on to say, apart from no defence, the rest of the team is strong. Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that. Okay, so houses in Aberdeen, Cato, I think it is. Again, forgive me if I didn't quite pronounce that correctly. If Jim goes, who would I have? I think we need to get a big name and someone who's not afraid to challenge any team. I think Sean Dyche would be nice, but he'll stick to England, I think. So, okay, I've always been of the opinion, and it's the way I've sort of been brought up through my grandfather and my uncle, who were both football journalists, prominent football journalists. And when I worked at Manchester United Television, and then when I worked at Setanta for a while, I was always sort of taught and briefed that you when a manager is in place, you don't start speaking about who you want the new manager to be. And this is not me sitting on the fence, and this is not me deflecting a question. But Jim is our manager, and I am not one to say, I want the next manager to be this person, because if Jim decides to quit, if he gets sacked, whatever the case may be, then an opinion will be given. But I've sort of been brought up to be respectful that way. I hope I'm making sense and not speaking absolute tosh. El Fidelo, hi. I'm sorry if I've not quite, again, forgive all the mispronunciations if I haven't quite got that right. Progress alley, question mark. We are regressing quickly, and unless things change quickly, we will be struggling to finish in the top 6. I agree. I absolutely agree. Stuart Gray has said, total embarrassment last night. However, Hearts were well up for it after Beale's comments, sorry, us being the third best team. They wanted it more simple as that. Bear with me, guys, just looking through more here. Houses in Aberdeen, Cato went on to say, it's with any manager, you either sack him or you back him. I think Jim was the best SPL choice at the time, but would have rather seen a bigger name manager. The board need to back the manager. Kaiser went on to say, Shinnie, Ramadani and McCrory in midfield is as good as you'd get in this league. Yeah. Okay. Right, guys, how long have we done? Gosh, we've nearly done half an hour. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I wanted to do roughly half an hour tonight. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for watching. I'm absolutely blown away by how many of you are on tonight. If you are watching for the first time, it's been a bit of an unusual show tonight because, as I said, and forgive me for repeating myself, we usually have lots of interviews and features and stuff like that, but not today. So we will be back on Monday. So we're going to do a preview show ahead of the Darvel game. So I will come on an hour before kickoff so we can react to team news, and there will be interviews and features in that show. And I'd like to throw an idea out to you that I'm thinking about taking forward on the channel as we continue to build here. I can't do it at the weekends because I work on Northsound at the weekend. But during the week, I'm thinking about at halftime actually coming on air. And I don't know if you can, let me see if I can, I'm not sure you can see this. Let me bring this round. Right, okay, so this is a little bit of sort of behind the scenes here at Alibeg ABTV. So this here is basically the broadcasting system that I use to put this show to air. And what I've been told that I can do here is basically I can bring in people live to the show. So say, for example, you're at the game on Monday night, if you're one of the brave souls that's traveling down, and we pre-arrange that I can actually, like at half time, for example. Now you can't be anywhere near the pitch. I can't have the pitch in the background because that goes against broadcasting legalities and all that sort of stuff. So we have to be very careful. So you'd have to go to a part of the ground which basically is not facing the football pitch. So we can't see anything there. And what I can do on this system is I can actually bring you into the program live. So the idea going forward is that during the week, if we have midweek games, is that I actually come on at half time and we react instantly to what's happened in that first half. And if I can get you, the fans, on live to do that, I think it would really improve the service going forward and improve the channel. So let me know if you think this is a good idea or a bad idea. I'm open to your opinions, as always. Just let me see if there's any more chats coming in. Yeah, a couple of you already said, yeah, it's a good idea to do halftime. The Scottish wild man has said, good luck. I'm going out to walk off a cliff. Stand free. Okay, we are definitely done now. Guys, thank you. I've really appreciated all your efforts tonight and coming on the show. And I hope it's not been too down because all we can do now is pick ourselves up and go again. We have absolutely no choice. And the next game is a huge game, massive game. And I can't believe I'm saying a game against a junior side. And I mean this with the greatest respect to the guys down there who I know are working round the clock to get this game on and to accommodate us. We're playing a junior football club. And it's a huge game. Deary me. What a sad state of affairs. Guys, have a great night and have a brilliant weekend. And hopefully I'll see you all on Monday night. Take care. Bye for now.